Hi everybody, we are in the Roman Forum. The Roman Forum was built at the end of 7th century before Christ. It was a center of Roman public life for more than a millennium. Over the centuries, several buildings were built for political, religious, and economical activity. At the end of the Republican era, the old Roman Forum was not very functional as a civil and administrative center of the city. The emperors and their dynasties only added prestigious monuments, the temple of Vespasian and Titus, and then of Antonio Pio and Faustina, dedicated to the memories of the emperors, the monumental Ark of Septimus Severus, built to celebrate his military victories. Temple of Antonius and Faustina. It is one of the best preserved buildings in the Roman Forum. It was built in 141 by Roman Emperor Antonius Pius in honor of his wife Faustina. Faustina was deified following her death, and the temple was just the temple of Faustina. It was the place of worship of the cult of Faustina. Then the emperor died in 161, and he too was deified, and Faustina's temple became the temple of Antonius and Faustina. The primary reason that the temple of Antonius and Faustina has survived in such a good state of preservation is that it was incorporated in the church of San Lorenzo in Miranda, sometime between 600 and 800 AD. In 1902, next to the temple of Antonio and Faustina, along the Via Sacra, was discovered a burial ground dating back to primordial Rome from 9th to 6th century before Christ. Numerous tombs were excavated in this area, with two types of burials, cremations and inhumations. So-called carcer. The three small rooms opening onto a corridor, with walls made of large tufa blocks and a travertine door, and window frames are generally ascribed to a carcer. But this is an error, as traditional attests the existence of only one prison in Rome, the Tullianum, on the slopes of the Capitoline Hill. Some sources consider this as a brother, but probably these are service rooms for a Roman house, perhaps used as a cellar or to house slaves. The Temple of Romulus. According to some sources, it was dedicated by the Emperor Maxentius to his son Valerio Romulo, who died in 309 at the age of 4. More recent studies, however, have contradicted this view, stating that the Temple of Romulus is probably a temple of the Penates of Rome, or a temple dedicated to Jupiter. The Visus at Carinas, the road leading to Carine. It was one of the oldest roads in Rome. Even since the Republican times, it had linked to neighborhood of Carine on the Aquiline Hill.
من أصبع.
The house of the Vestal Virgins was the residence of Vestal Virgins, located behind the circular temple of Vesta and the eastern edge of the Roman Forum between the Regia and Palatine Hill. The atrium Vesta was a three-story 50-room palace in the ancient Roman Forum. The Virgins of Vestal were viewed as magical women in the Romans. They were said to be the only reason why Rome had not been doomed, due to their ongoing work to keep the magical flame alive. The College of Vestals was an exclusive palace, only accepting 6 virgins at a time, who were each selected by the emperor. The girls were between 6 and 10 years old and came from the most noble families of Rome. The women and girls committed to serving under the Dionysus of Halicarnassus for 30 years. The first 10 years were to learn the ways of the college, with the next 10 years performing the rituals of the house. Their duties included keeping the fire in the temple of Vesta alight, as well as keeping the vow of chastity, fetching water from a sacred spring, and preparing food. They were finished their last 10 years training the new recruits. They were the most powerful women in Rome, as they could vote over property and were free from their father's control. Breaking their vows or not performing their duties would result the punishment such as whipping, but breaking their vow of chastity was punished by being buried alive in the underground chambers. Before the fire, in the reign of Nero, the house of the Vestals had a different shape, size, and orientation. The oldest surviving structure dates to the 6th century before Christ. It was then rebuilt from 2 blocks in the 3rd century before Christ and redesigned in the late Republic, early Empire. Temple of Vesta, one of the oldest sacred buildings in the Roman Forum, was first built by Numa Pompilius, Rome's second king, and founder of the Order of Vestals.
Hij is zwanger geweest, hij heeft nou 2 maanden hier.
The spring of Juturna is found near the temple of Vesta and the house of the Vestal Virgins. Juturna was a nymph and goddess of springs and fountains. The spring was probably the main source of fresh water for the first inhabitants of Palatine Hill. Basilica Julia was a civil courthouse in the Roman Forum, which would also have housed a series of shops. Initially founded by Julius Caesar in 54 BC, it soon burned to the ground and was rebuilt and completed under Augustinus in 12 BC. The Basilica Julia was subsequently rebuilt several times. The basilica housed the civil law courts and shops and provided space for government offices and bankings.
And on the 100, they were sent to space because the world ended. No, but I do like that movie.
The Temple of Saturn was an ancient Roman temple to the god Saturn. Its ruins stand to the foot of Capitoline Hill in the western end of the Roman Forum. The original dedication of the temple is traditionally dated to 497 BC. The Milarium Aureum, also known by the translation as Golden Milestone, was a monument probably of marble or gilded bronze erected by the Emperor Augustus near the Temple of Saturn in the center of Forum of ancient Rome. All roads were considered to begin at the monument, and all distances of the Roman Empire were measured relative to it.
Sì, come si parla? Ah, ci siamo
The temple of Vespasian and Titus. It is dedicated to Vespasian and his son Titus. Portico of the Harmonious Gods. It was reconstructed in the 19th century with ancient materials. The portico consists of 12 columns with the same number of rooms behind them, but only 7 survive, each dedicated to one of the Olympian gods. The Temple of Concord was erected by Furius Camillus, the conqueror of the Gauls, in 367. The temple was rebuilt in 121 BC and dedicated to goddess Concordia by the Roman consul Lucius Optimus after the murder of Gaius Graccicus. The Ark of Septimus Severus, dedicated in 203 AD to commemorate of the Parthian victories of Emperor Septimus Severus and his 2 sons, Caracalla and Geta. After the death of Septimus Severus, his sons Caracalla and Geta were initially joint emperors. Caracalla killed Geta in 212 AD, and Geta's memorials were destroyed and all images of mentions of him were removed from public buildings and monuments. The Basilica Emilia faces the Forum with a double order portico. The 3 granite columns were raised during reconstruction work in the late Empire. Behind the portico, in a row of shops in 2 blocks, forming 2 groups of 6 around the entrance, there are the Taberna Nove, predating the Basilica and incorporated into it. The Temple of Venus and Rome is thought to have been the largest temple in ancient Rome. Located in the Velian Hill, it was dedicated to the goddesses Venus Felix, Venus the bringer of the good fortune, and Roma Eterna, eternal Rome. The construction of this building was initiated by the Emperor Hadrian.